The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you in part by Mays Sandwich Shop, serving delicious hometown favorites to the West Lawn community since 1947. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball!
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup!
College football.
The Big Ten championship lies on a measurement.
Did he get it? No! He didn't get it! Penn State home!
They brought back the fun, they brought back the excitement, and now they've brought back a Big Ten championship. The Penn State Nittany Lions are Big Ten champions.
And the NFL.
He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl! Brady has his fifth! What a comeback!
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 239 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm your host, Joe Mays, alone here in the studio, but not alone on the show. Joining us via telephone, the Mays Sandwich Shop hotline, is Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be with the show, even if in person.
Yeah, this is a first for us here, or at least a first in a while. I think the last time we had you over the phone on the Mays Sandwich Shop hotline was when you were at a Phillies game, I think, a few years ago.
I think so.
So we're going to be talking NFC North here, and we're going to get Justin's opinions on the division, and then I'll go a little bit more in depth so that we don't keep him all evening, keep him away from his family while he's enjoying himself on a little bit of a vacation. So let's dive right into it here. So NFC North, last year things, I guess you could say they kind of went as planned. I think a lot of people expected the Packers to be a solid squad, which they were, once again, winning the division, rebounding from the maybe a little bit of a shock for them to lose it in 2015 to the Vikings, but the Packers won it again for the fifth time in 6 seasons, and they had a strong year. Once again, Aaron Rodgers saying, basically, be calm, we'll be fine, and they were just that. They ended up losing in the NFC Championship game to the, obviously, NFC champion Atlanta Falcons. The Lions were second last year in the NFC North at 9-7. They lost in the wild card playoffs to the Seahawks. The Vikings dropped to third at 8-8, and then you had the lowly Chicago Bears coming in at 3-13, and obviously not making the playoffs. So, Justin, what do you think is going to happen this year in the NFC North, one of the most historically important divisions for professional football?
Yeah, I think, we talked a number of times about how we worry about our picks matching up too much with last year, knowing historically that there's a decent amount of turnover in playoffs year to year. I don't see it being very different in the NFC North this year. Who wins out, it's kind of tough because the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, when he doesn't have a nagging injury, now he usually plays through, but when he doesn't have a nagging injury that prevents some of his mobility in the pocket, he's the best quarterback in that division, and one of the best in football. So I think the Packers are going to win the division. You never know what you're going to get from them, in terms of defense or offensive line play. When they got things clicking about a third of the way through or halfway through the season last year, they really were on a tear. Just didn't have quite enough to get it done against Atlanta in Atlanta. So I think they're going to win it. I think the Lions are the next best team. Again, big unknown. They had peaked a couple years ago, kind of leveled off a little bit. But I look at it, I think Matthew Stafford is going to be in for a big year. I believe it's a contract year for Matthew Stafford. And people are talking about how, if he has a big year, he could set a huge number, which would be funny because he was in that quarterback draft area where he got a huge number coming out of college still. So I think he's the next best, and I think the Lions' defense last year, at times was good, or good enough, I should say. This division, though, kind of leads with all those things. You get to the Vikings, I don't know. I liked what they had a couple years ago. Teddy Bridgewater's still on the mend, so you don't know what you're going to have at the quarterback position there for the Vikings. You don't know what you're going to have on defense. They don't have Adrian Peterson anymore. So it's just kind of a crazy situation. Not really sure exactly how that's going to play out. I think that lends them to be in third. I'd put the Bears, who have, in my opinion, the worst quarterback situation of the teams, and they didn't really have much going for them. I hope the loss of Alshon Jeffrey is big, just in the sense that I hope he has a huge year because he's on the Eagles now. So, yeah, I don't really know how it'll play out, but I think that's how it'll be. I put the Bears. Honestly, I think I could see the Bears at like 5 wins, maybe. I put the Vikings at like 7 or 8 wins. I put the Lions at 8 or 9 wins, and I put the Packers at probably 10 or 11 wins. And that's my guess. And as I mentioned to you briefly, I think it's going to reflect the quality of quarterbacks. I think Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the division. I think Matthew Stafford's the next best. And then the Vikings, who knows how that's going to work out this year. But the Bears, they bring in McCown, I think. Or no, I forget the guy's name, but they brought him in from Tampa. Wasn't it the Tampa guy that they signed?
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Now I'm not going to be able to think of his name.
Glennon.
Mike Glennon, yep.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting because Mike Glennon is playing to show another team that he's their guy, because then they go and draft, a quarterback in the top 5, the second or third pick. They
second,
drafted a quarterback.
They moved up from 3 to get him at 2.
Yeah, that's crazy. Mitchell Trubisky went 2.
He just signed, too, so just in time for training camp.
That's insane. Like, Mitchell Trubisky, the 2 overall pick. Wow.
Yeah, well, we talked about that right after the draft, how we were surprised. Yeah. We thought the Bears were one of the biggest losers, too.
Yeah, because they gave up a lot to get that. They're a team that needs a lot, That's a move where if you feel like you're a quarterback away, which is kind of crazy because that's like saying, oh, if you're the most important position away, but if you feel like you have everything else in place except the quarterback, go ahead. A la the Broncos a few years ago, right? They had all the pieces. They felt like they needed to move on from Tebow. So what they do, they go out and they get Peyton Manning. That's, I know they got guys after that too, but that's an instance of they felt like they were a quarterback away, or at least, that was the key piece. No one would argue that the Bears are in that spot, not even close. So, I don't know. It's interesting.
For sure. So I think you had the teams, just to recap here before we let you go, you said it was Packers, Lions, Vikings, Bears, first to worst, with you said the Bears had about 5 wins, which actually would be a 2-win improvement for them. But you had the Vikings, Lions, and Packers right around where they were a year ago. Green Bay won 10, Detroit won 9, and Minnesota won 8. So you're floating around duplicate of the 2016 season. And I can't really say I disagree with you. This may be a case where as I'm talking through it, I switch some things up. But on the surface, I think you're right there. I think the Bears are easily the worst team in the division. I do think they'll be better than 3 wins from a year ago, but not all that much better. And I guess I'd say, in broad terms, that's a 3-team race for the division. But I do kind of think that in the end, it's going to come down to Green Bay or Detroit.
Did Sam Bradford, is he back in Minnesota?
Yes.
Okay. Then I assume he's the quarterback because
I would assume so. I haven't
Bridgewater's
heard.
still out this year.
Right, yeah. Bridgewater's out until I think later in the fall, so
right.
I don't think.
Yeah, so, I mean, they have a chance. They started out 5-0 last year, then teams figured them out, but, like, I mean,
unless they're going to go with Case Keenum, he had moments with the Rams, but I don't think he's anything. He's definitely not better than Bradford.
Right. So
yeah, they got to go Bradford, and who knows what's going to happen with Bridgewater. What a terrible thing, because he looked like such a promising young man at quarterback when we saw him at Louisville, and then in Minnesota he was able to do in 2015.
Yeah.
And for that devastating knee injury to happen last summer. It's really unfortunate, but Sam Bradford was the guy. And yeah, you said they started 5-0 last year. They were one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league, and then things just kind of unraveled for them after the bye, losing to your Eagles and then falling to the Bears, which, I mean, that's a terrible loss right there.
Right. The loss to the Eagles, while not a great loss, was like, okay, like they had the bye, they were on a run, you're going to lose eventually. No one saw that team going undefeated. No, I say that some because I was rooting for the Eagles. But, yeah, the loss to the Bears, you can't lose that game last year. Man, the Bears were awful last year.
Yeah.
And the Bears gave some teams a scare last year, but they were not good.
Probably the worst part about it is the teams that Minnesota beat in the first 5 weeks were all good teams, at least average to above average, if not good, like good to great teams, because they beat the Titans in Tennessee, who ended up being a very good team.
Yeah.
They beat the Packers at home, again, a very strong team, got better as the year went on, though. The Panthers, they weren't up to par. They weren't the 2015 Panthers, but they still were a hard out.
Right, and we didn't really know that at the time.
Right. And then they beat the Giants and the Texans. So, 5 wins against those 5 teams, those were quality wins. And then losing to the Eagles, coming off a bye in Philadelphia, that's fine. But then you lose to the Bears, you lose in the overtime to the Lions, and then you lose at Washington, and things just unraveled. They were at 5-4, and they'd only win 3 the rest of the way, beating Arizona, Jacksonville, and Chicago.
Yeah, so I think... I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't rule them out, especially because, the Packers were hit or miss early last year too. But, and the Lions, I mean, that's the Lions. So who's going to put money on the Lions to be the ones to come away with it? You know what I mean? Like, but if I have to pick, who am I going with in the toss-up? Or not really a toss-up, but if I think it's going to be close, I'm going with Aaron Rodgers until somebody shows me differently, So
yeah, and I'm gonna say I agree. I'm gonna talk myself through it because I'd like to pick the Lions. I just don't know that I can do it.
Me too. Like when you told me you were coming on, I'm like, okay, and I'm like, oh, Packers easy, and I'm like, wait, is it easy? Like, I don't know. Like,
I mean, you said it, and we've said it a number of times, and plenty of other sports analysts and experts out there say it. When it comes down to tiebreakers, or when you're having a tough time choosing a team, who has the better quarterback? And as much as I have learned to like Matthew Stafford more than I did when he came out of Georgia, Aaron Rodgers is 100%. Hands down the best quarterback in that division.
Absolutely, and it's not like such a. Like, I think part of it is a big statement on Aaron Rodgers, but, like, what is Matthew Stafford going to get from the rest of his team, too? Like, I don't really know. I feel like while the Packers have ups and downs, like, we kind of know what we can expect from them. I feel like the Lions know, if anyone says they know what to expect from the Lions, I think they're fooling themselves. Like, no one has any clue. Like, they could go out and be the best offense and defense in the division and one of the best in the league.
Right.
But they could come out and finish dead last in that division too, and that wouldn't, it's the Lions, so it wouldn't really surprise me. So
yeah.
But it would only surprise me that they were that much worse than the Bears. That's the surprising part. I think the Bears are going to be bad. So
yeah, I think the Bears are going to be bad. I don't know if they're going to be as bad as last year, but I do think they're going to be bad. I don't think they're 3-13 bad at all. So
right, and I hope Trubisky works out, because if that's the piece, then actually, what I hope is that Glennon works out, so that they can then maybe move him and hopefully get, start to get building. But, like, the way they went about building there, it kind of seems like they handicapped their own rebuild a little bit. Like, I don't, by signing a guy and then drafting a guy, seems like they didn't really do themselves any favors. And
yeah, I think they were doubling down.
That rebuild.
They're trying to cut off, making a mistake, be it.
Right.
Well, we all know what happened with another Tampa Bay quarterback. Josh Freeman looked like the guy, and then he fell off. Now Glennon comes on, but they go with Winston because he wasn't getting the job done. But the Bears, you wanted give him a chance. You got to have a veteran presence, and then they're like, we have this early pick, we might as well capitalize on it. Even though they gave up a lot next year to move up one spot.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, I don't know. I get it. We talk about it all the time. If they feel like that's the guy, go for it.
Go do it. Yeah,
the
Eagles did it 2 years ago.
Right. Was it last week we did the AFC South?
Yes.
I think.
Yep.
And look how high we both are on Deshaun Watson. You went so much later.
True.
The Bears in reality could have traded back. Now, I'm getting, if they think Trubisky's their guy, but the Bears could have traded back, gotten more value instead of giving away future picks, getting future picks, and still gotten Deshaun Watson in theory.
Right.
I know that it's all hypothetical, but like they could have done that, or stayed put. At worst case, and probably still gotten Trubisky. Or Deshaun Watson or something. I don't know. I just, it was an interesting move. But you know what? That's why they get paid the millions, right? To figure that stuff out. So.
Absolutely. So before I let you go, we're actually getting a few comments here on the live video as well as via text, and they're coming from what we like to call the dads. So I'll start with mine first. The first one is my dad wanted to know how old Aaron Rodgers is. And I looked it up just to double check, but he will be 34 in December.
Yeah.
So he's 33 right now, so he'll be 33 through a majority of the season, turning 34 on December 2nd of this year. He also says that he agrees with our choices with the Bears in last, probably the Packers in first, followed by the Lions in second and the Vikings in third. But it sounds like he's with us. It's Bears and then the top three leaning Packers.
Yeah.
And then the other comment, not really a question. Well, I mean, there's a question mark in it, but I think it's more of like, can you believe this? Your dad says, how about them Phillies?
I knew. They won back-to-back series for the first time since beginning of June, I believe.
Yeah, they after losing the first game at the Marlins on July 17th, in 10 innings, by the way, they beat the Marlins the next two games, and then they took 2 out of 3 from the Brewers. A little surprising because the Brewers are a strong team this year. And they honestly, they could have swept them because they fought back yesterday, losing. I think they were down by 7 at one time.
Yeah, they came back and tied it up and then lost it in the ninth.
Yeah, they just couldn't get it done. Probably the best part of it was how Aaron Nola played in the series opener against the Brewers.
Right.
He looked good in that one.
The key to me is, 1, trying to win at least 60 games, and 2, or let's put it 63 so that let's not be a 100-loss team.
29 more.
Right. Okay, so let's not be a 100-loss team. But the key to me is how, since the All-Star break, a lot of the younger players have had a bit more jump in their step. We've seen more production from some of the young guys, and that's the key because, we knew it at the beginning of the year. We were hoping they'd be a lot better than they are this year, but still we didn't, hold out too high hope, I don't think, for them. But the key we all agreed on was we need to see progress from the young guys. Even if we only see that progress in the second half, that's good for me. I think that's something to build on. So hopefully we can keep that going. I think they had 5 All-Stars at AAA level in the international game. So hopefully they can continue to build, and those young guys can have a strong second half of the season. So
yeah, I think if I'm doing the quick math right, they need to go 29 and 37. Does that sound about right? I think that's 63 and 99.
Right.
So 29 and 37. If that's not even 500. We're not asking a lot here, just to not lose 100 games. I mean, but at the beginning of the year, I think we were talking more. We were hoping mid-70s. So
we're hoping mid-70s.
Yeah. So they're underperforming for sure. They've had their moments, but young teams like this, inconsistency is the name of the game, and that's what we're getting right now. Hopefully the second half of the year, the Phillies have historically been a better second half team, at least over the last decade or so. Hopefully that comes about with the young guys here. Do you put much into the rumors of a trade with the Marlins for Stanton or Yelich?
I think the Yelich one, there might be something there, just because that one seems to have stuck around a little bit more. And the Marlins thing is weird because they're trying to sell the team right now. Don't get me wrong, like, face value, I'd love to have Stanton, and Yelich. Like, I'd love to have both of them. They're both, like, really good players. And Stanton is the kind that, like, in my opinion, like, people can go, like, will buy tickets to go watch him,
Right.
Like, all of a sudden they might need to put up a protection in front of the scoreboard out there in left field in Philly if he's coming to town. That being said, I don't know that we're at that point where that's what we're looking for. Especially because he can opt out in 2020. I know he's making huge money. But if he's putting up huge numbers, he may opt out then and redo his deal. It's hard to believe he would opt out.
After 2020 or before 2020?
I think after the 2020 season,
So really, you'd have 3+ years with him if it would happen now and not in the off season.
Right.
I mean, you would have him in his for the majority of his prime, because he's 27 now. He'll be 28 in November.
Right.
So you'd have him basically seasons 28, 29, and 30. Generally, you start to see a decline in baseball, usually 32, 33.
Now going full Philly conspiracy model here, like, all right, if you have to pick one, do you take him or do you want to make a legitimate run at Bryce Harper after next year and offer him $350 or $400 million?
Well, I think in true Philly conspiracy or hype, you go Stanton, Harper, and Trout. Like, why not?
There we go.
Three.
There we go.
What are we
By
waiting
the way,
for?
Trout has jumped in on get LeBron to Philly.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Process,
I've seen that. That is amazing.
Mike Trout, and Jamie laughs at this because he brings it up. In all honesty, Mike Trout's like my favorite baseball player right now. Like, I don't, and I know there's some Philly fans who get all bent out of shape because he's not from Philly, he's from Jersey. He never played.
Yeah, but
for
he
the
grew up
Phillies.
a Philly fan. What does it matter?
Right, he's a Phillies fan. He's outwardly like a Philadelphia fan, like in Eagles and Sixers and Flyers and all that stuff. And he's the best baseball player in the league and one of the best in history by the numbers.
He's been that way for a few years now. This isn't anything new.
Right. So, what's not to like?
Absolutely. So, thank you, Justin, for taking some time away to come on and talk a little football and baseball here at the end. We appreciate you joining us, and I'm going to wrap things up here, and I'm just going to go through the teams one by one and give my take on the NFC North for 2017. And we look forward to having you back here in the studio for the show on Sunday, August 13th, which is our next broadcast, and we'll be doing the AFC North. So that is a big one for friends and family of the show for sure.
Yes.
All right, well, have a great time. Tell everyone I say hello, and I'll see you in a few days.
I'll do that. Sounds good, buddy. I'll see you later.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
All right, so that was J-Raff joining me via the May Sandwich Shop hotline, and we thank him for taking the time to do that for us. Real quickly, one thing I wanted to point out, I was doing research for the show tonight. I find it hilarious that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have more recently won a NFC North / Central title than the Detroit Lions have. As crazy as that sounds. In 2002, we reorganized to the division format that we have now, which is just, the compass locations, north, south, east, and west. Before it was west, central, and east. They moved the Seahawks from the AFC to the NFC. The Texans came in, so we reorganized, and we are left with the NFC North: Packers, Bears, Vikings, Lions. The Lions have never won the NFC North. Never. The last time the Lions have won a division title was 1993, and I believe they lost the wildcard playoffs to the Eagles that year. So, yeah, the Detroit Lions, looking for a division title, would be their first one in 24 years. 1993 was their last division title. So 24 years, it's crazy to think it's been that long for the Lions. But yeah, the Buccaneers have more recently won a North / Central title, and that was in 1999. it's been mostly Packers in the North since it became the North in 2002. They've won, looks like 10, I think, or 9 of the titles as the NFC North. The Bears have won 3, with the Vikings winning 3. So it's definitely been a majority of the Packers, with a little bit of Lions sprinkled in the wild card. The Lions have made the playoffs as the wild card 3 times in 2011, 2014, and 2016. So will the Lions unseat the Packers and take the division this year? Justin doesn't seem to think so. He has the Packers on top. Again, I'll go over it again. It's Packers, Lions, Vikings, Bears. Agreement there from my dad. I do agree that I believe that the Chicago Bears are going to be the worst team in that division again. They were 3-13 last year. Their only wins were against the Lions, Vikings, and 49ers. So they did beat 2 divisional opponents and the 49ers, who were similarly terrible, and actually held the 2nd pick and traded with the Bears for the 3rd pick and got a whole bunch of picks. John Lynch did a great job there, getting a lot of good quantity and quality in the draft in 2017 and stocking up for 2018. But Bears, I don't know. I don't hold out a lot of hope for much improvement. Maybe a little bit. It's their 3rd year with Coach Fox. You would hope you would see some kind of improvement from them. If not, you got to think that possibly John Fox and the young GM Ryan Pace may be out of the Chicago Bears organization. So, what have they added? Well, as we mentioned in the draft, they added Mitchell Trubisky at the 2nd overall pick. Not too much else to go. They traded away picks in that draft and the next draft to move up to get Trubisky. So he's the big one for sure. Who have they re-signed or added in free agency? Sam Acho, Jonathan Banks, Connor Barth, Chris Krasinski, Deontay Thompson. That's pretty much it. They lost Marcus Wilson in free agency. He wasn't a huge loss. Logan Paulson moved on to the 49ers. Ted Larson went to my Dolphins. And you heard Justin mention Alshon Jeffrey going to the Eagles. That's a huge, huge loss for them. He's absolutely a playmaking wide receiver for sure. Brian Hoyer gone also to the 49ers. He may start out there. Same thing with Barkley. So both Hoyer and Barkley are moving on to the 49ers, leaving the Bears with a quarterback duo of, well, really trio, because I forgot he was there. Trubisky, Glennon, and my boy, Mark Sanchez. They do have a nice running backfield. You have Jeremy Langford, Jordan Howard, and Kadeem Carey. That is a good threesome right there in the backfield. They brought in Victor Cruz from the Giants kind of to take over for losing Alshon Jeffrey. They've also brought in Ruben Randall, and you heard me say Deontay Thompson. Marcus Wheaton came over from the Steelers. Kevin White, is he going to be able to do anything? And also Kendall Wright, who was with the Titans. So they added a lot over the years in free agency to make up for the loss of Alshon Jeffrey and Marcus Wilson. Kevin White needs to step up, and Victor Cruz and Ruben Randall need to play like their earlier Giants days than more of the recent time. Cameron Meredith was kind of a breakthrough last year. Can he duplicate his success? Tough to say. But with the way they performed last year, winning only 3 games and possibly relying on a rookie quarterback, although my guess would be Glennon gets it, I think they are a little bit better. I think they had some harsh luck at times last year, but I agree with Justin. I think a little bit of improvement, maybe 5 wins for the Bears in 2017. Up next, I'm also going to go with the Vikings in third. We already kind of talked about how they performed in 2016. So let's look ahead a little bit to 2017. Sam Bradford's the guy. He has to be. I highly doubt that they have a ton of faith in Case Keenum. they have to hope that Bradford stays healthy for sure. They were able to grab Dalvin Cook in the second round from Florida State. That was a nice pickup for him. You heard Justin saying Adrian Peterson no longer there. Is it going to be a big loss? Time will tell on that one. But they also lost Matt Agiata to the rival Lions. They brought in or re-signed, I guess, Bishop Sankey at running back, and they brought in Latavius Murray from the Raiders. So they're going to rely, I would think, on a rotation of Jerick McKinnon, who returns, with Latavius Murray, a newcomer, and at times give it off to Dalvin Cook. Bishop Sankey, he could be on the bubble, depending on if they want to go with 4 guys, 5 if you include a fullback. So we'll see what happens there. Wide receiver, they've got some talent there. Stephon Diggs was a playmaker, and Adam Thielen broke into the league last year and looked absolutely incredible at times. He is the number 1 selling jersey in the state of Minnesota. Laquan Treadwell was supposed to make big plays from Ole Miss last year. He'll look to have a better sophomore year. And they have Michael Floyd, who was suspended after his incidents with the Cardinals before winning a Super Bowl with the Patriots. So we know he has some talent from Notre Dame, but if he can stay out of trouble off the field, maybe he'll be able to do something for them. Offensive line has been an issue at times. Have they fixed it? Well, they brought in Riley Reiff from the Lions at tackle. They lost, however, their tackle Khalil. He went to the Panthers to play with his brother. They have a very exciting group of linebackers, headlined by Anthony Barr. They got my boy Eric Kendricks, who I wanted the Dolphins to take just a couple of years ago. And they have a young and exciting secondary in Mackenzie Alexander, Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, and Trey Waynes lead the way. And they still have the veteran Terrence Newman as well. So I think it's an interesting group. I think there's some strength there. They won 8 games last year. I think it comes down to Bradford. It comes down to quarterback play. It's very cliche, but I think it's true. And I don't know that the Vikings are better than an 8-9 win team. I think they can push for the division title or be a wild card. But for now, I'm going to leave them in third at 8-8. And just because I want to be that guy who can point out that, I had this one all the way, I'm going to flip-flop things. I'll say the Packers finish in second. I still think they're good, and that's all because of Aaron Rodgers. They struggled, losing 5 out of 6 between week 6 and 11 last year before rebounding and winning their next 6 to finish 10-6. And we know that they beat the Giants and then the Cowboys in a thrilling game at AT&T Stadium before falling to the Falcons in the NFC Championship game. The Packers, I think it'll be more of the same from them. I think they'll struggle at times. They lost Jared Cook to the Raiders, Micah Hyde to the Bills, Dayton Jones to the rival Vikings, Eddie Lacy went to the Seahawks, TJ Lang went to the Lions. That's a huge one. Julius Peppers returned home to the Panthers, and J.C. Treader goes to the Browns. Those were all starters, by the way. So that's a lot of lost talent. 7 players gone. And who did they bring in? Anyone that's really going to do much for them? I'm not sure. I mean, Christine Michael was brought back. Nick Perry was re-signed. But other than that, the biggest one probably was the free agent signing of Martellus Bennett from the Patriots. He won the Super Bowl there last year. He comes to the Packers to replace Jared Cook. Lance Kendricks also added. Davin House, a huge get from the Jaguars. They brought in Jari Evans from the Saints to fill in some of the offensive line that they lost. They lost both Lang and Treader. But, we've heard there be some turmoil in Green Bay over the lack of retaining some of their talent. Ted Thompson is notorious for being a a nickel and dime guy and looking to cast off some of his veterans as they get close to that barrier where they could start to fall apart. Andy Reid was famous for doing that in Philadelphia. There's like a 30-year mark where if you hit that point, you weren't getting re-signed or you were being cut. And Ted Thompson's been doing that. Now, it's working. The Packers have won, 5 of the last 6 division titles. They won a Super Bowl just 7 years ago. And Aaron Rodgers is one of the best, if not the best, quarterback in the NFL at times. Their draft, they went with Kevin King from Washington and Josh Jones, a safety from NC State, in the second round. Both of them were in the second round. Those were their big picks. They got to hope that they can shore up a safety. And you heard Justin mention this, that the Packers' defense is kind of what holds them back. Usually they have plenty of offense to get it done, but their defense at times just is abysmal. But when you have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback and that receiving core that he's able to disperse it around to Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb in particular, Jeff Janis has had moments, and Jordy Nelson now that he's 2 years removed from his knee injury, and you add Bennett and Kendricks at tight end, and more of the same. At running back, what are they going to do? They got rid of the guys that they've been using recently, except Ty Montgomery, a converted wide receiver, is now the man at running back. He took that role over mid-year last year, and they've told him to focus on them. That's where he's going to be this year. So if he could do what he was able to do at times last year, Packers offense should be clicking as usual. Offensive line, some turnover there. They got to figure it out. And defense, they kind of remind me of the Saints defense when they won with Breeze in 2009. They kind of are a high risk, high reward. They rely on turnovers. They're not a shut them down, eat them up kind of deal. And that may be what Green Bay needs to win another division title or move past the NFC Championship game in 2017. I'm going to say they don't do it. I think they win 9. I think they take a step back. They were 10-6 last year. I think they go 9-7. I'm gonna be contrarian here against what Justin had said earlier, and my dad agreed with. I think I'll drop Green Bay to a little bit grudgingly, but hey, let's be a little bit different here. Let's move on to the Lions, who I'm going to put at 1. And even though I talked about how they hadn't won a division title since 1993, I'm going to put them there. So I have the Lions winning the NFC North in 2017. I like what they did last year. They lost a close game to the Titans and the Bears, which you can't lose that game. So that's a little bit of a red flag. Same thing, the Texans and the Giants. They got beat up pretty good by the Cowboys, but lost a close one on New Year's Day to the Packers. They were in these games. I think they can flip the switch. I think they can take it to the next level. I think they can win 10 or 11 games and win their first ever NFC North division title. What have they done to make me think that? Well, they brought in Rick Wagner from the Ravens to help with the offensive line. We know they lost Riley Reiff. DJ Hayden came over from the Raiders. That's been their Achilles heel, has been the secondary. Hopefully he can help there. But then the big one, TJ Lang, the guard from the Packers, to shore up that offensive line. And our Penn State boy, Jordan Hill from the Jaguars, coming in to play defensive tackle. And they lost DeAndre Levy. I don't have much to say about him because he's been a little bit of obnoxious about the Penn State situation. I mentioned Riley Reiff moving on to the Vikings. Larry Warford also moving on to the Saints. So they lost 2 starters on the offensive line, but I like the addition of TJ Lang. I think that helps. I think that helps a lot. And same thing with Rick Wagner. I think that's a big pickup for them as well. Now, what did they do in the draft? Well, they took 2 Florida players at 21 and 53, Jarrett Davis and Teez Tabor, linebacker, cornerback. So defense is where they were looking to improve on, and I think they did. I think they did enough to take down the Packers this season. Matthew Stafford has to continue to play at a high level, even with the departure now in the second year of not having Megatron around. What will they do at running back besides having Amir Abdullah and Theo Riddick? They also have Zach Zenner, Dwayne Washington, and they added Matt Aggiata. So a lot of guys there looking to carry the ball. We'll see how that plays out. Not a great situation in fantasy, for sure. Our receiver, Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, those are your big guys, but they also have Jared Abbrederis, Keyshawn Martin, and at tight end, Eric Ebron is still a good go-to guy. Offensive line, we heard the departures. They also have some good additions. I didn't add, they had Tony Hills as kind of a swing guy backup as well. But they have a good guy at center in Travis Swanson. I really like him. I think he's got potential there. Defensively, Ezekiel Ansah is a beast at defensive end. And we talked about the addition of Jordan Hill. I don't know. I think that the Lions are just ready to break through. I think they have potential to be a bit of a surprise this year. They were surprising people last year when they were sitting, I think, at 9-4 at one point before fading a little bit down the stretch. They lost their last 3 games to the Giants, Cowboys, and Packers. All good teams, but you got to win those games if you want to win a division. So this year it'll be interesting to see what the Lions do. They open up hosting the Cardinals before traveling to the Giants and then hosting the Falcons. And at the end of the season, they host the Bears, go to the Bengals, and host the Packers. So if they want to be the NFC North Division champs in 2017, their first division title in 24 years, it may come down to Christmas Eve, 1 o'clock, Green Bay at Ford Field. It'll be interesting for sure. And if they want to make sure that they can control the division, they'll get to do so by hosting the Vikings on Thanksgiving. That game kicks off at 12:30. So that's what we think the NFC North shapes up this year. Packers and Lions and Vikings, any of those three, that's a possibility for them. I'm going to favor the Lions. Justin favors the Packers. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Green Bay just because of Aaron Rodgers. But one of these years, man, it's got to happen, right? I know we've been saying that about the AFC East for a while, too. But one of these years, one of these great quarterbacks that's playing now, it's got to come to an end. Will it be this year? Will the Lions unseat the Packers? Who knows, but why not go for it? So that's what I did this year. All right, so in the business here, let's go over how you can contact us and interact with the show. Before I think I've gotten some texts here. My dad says that the Lions have to start out strong again if they want to win the division. They had that chance last year before they lost their final 3 games. All right, the next episode 240, as I said to Justin while he joined us via the Mays Sandwich Shop hotline, will be 3 weeks from tonight. It will be Sunday, August 13th at 7:45, and that will be the show. We continue our 2017 NFL preview with a look at the AFC North. So we'll get to talk about the Steelers, Bengals, Ravens, and Browns. And I know plenty of friends and family are interested in how at least 2 of those teams fare this season. Make sure you're always checking jmnjrradio.com and follow us on Twitter, the network account jmnjr_radio, the show account at Joe Mays and J-Raff, my personal account at JMFlyer with a Y, 1454, and Justin's teacher account at Mr_Raffoff. Shout out birthdays. One, for sure we mentioned it last week, but I'll say it again. Happy birthday to Laura, who celebrated a few days ago, turning 30. And happy birthday to my co-host, Justin, who is celebrating tomorrow. So, happy birthday to all of you. And we'll have plenty more to recap in a few weeks. I'm sure there'll be plenty of birthdays to say on that show. But I think that's it. So thanks for joining me and Justin via phone on episode 239 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I hope you tune in every Sunday for our take on sports. Until next time, I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live
on Facebook Live
and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.